Good morning, everyone. I think I'm live. Yep, my little clock thing is going. Sometimes it's hard to tell. Hi, good morning. My name is Julie, and I am the owner and founder of Lady Faltai. You're either watching this video on my Facebook page or my YouTube channel, which my YouTube channel is called Lady Faltai's Light Healing. So you could be watching those on either one. Today we're going to be talking about steps to do if you are going to be doing a ceremony. So one of the things I do want to start out with saying is that I kind of went through all the steps that I have been taught to do. I will tell you, I don't do all these steps. And so that's with a lot of the things that we talk about and I share with you is I share with you the things that I know, and then you can take what feels right to you and leave what doesn't. So I'm going to go over about 11 different steps to performing ceremony, and like I said, you can kind of take what you like and leave what you don't like, and because that's what I do. I don't do all of these steps, but so if something I say, you're like, we don't need to do that. No, you don't need to do that. These are just steps. If somebody wants to go through all the steps, this is what they would be. But I think, performing a ritual is all about what feels right to you and what is comfortable for you. And if it doesn't feel comfortable for you, then don't do it. And maybe you'll find something else in your learning that is not in one of these steps that I have going to talk about, and that's perfectly okay too. So, we're all a little different, and the way we like to do things is a little different. But I'm going to basically just go over some of the things that I know about, and some of these I do, and some of these I don't do. But before we get started too much here, I would like to sage a little bit and get the Palo Santos going a little. So I hope everybody's having a good week. I know it's kind of confusing out there right now because some states are open and some states aren't, and some restaurants are open and some aren't, and it's very confusing out there. You're not really sure what you're supposed to do and not supposed to do, and some places make you wear a mask and some places don't, and there's all kinds of controversy around that, which I won't get into, but so there's some for you and some for me. All right. A little Palo Santos. I just love the smell of this. So we'll have that go for now. All right. Just throw my lighter around. Okay. So let's get started here. Make sure I got my stuff that I need to talk about. So I think we're good. All right. So the number one thing that I recommend to start with is just really gathering anything that you would need, which is basically what I just did this morning. I went around and said, okay, those are the herbs I need. That's the oil I need. That's the candle I need. And, we'll get into some of that stuff as well. But so just to me, that's the number one thing. So when you get ready to do your ritual, you don't have to get up and go somewhere and, kind of get out of the swing of things, so to speak. I mean, if you forget something and you have to get up, there's nothing wrong with that. You can certainly get up and get it. But I do kind of try to remember to get, like, I just sat down and said, okay, I've got my herbs, I've got my candle, I've got my anointing oil, I've got my moon water, I've got my stones that I want to show, just like I would for, for the video. I prepared. Sometimes I forget stuff, and you will too, but that's okay. Um, but just try to make sure that you have everything you're going to need, so you don't have to get up from doing your ritual. So again, some of those things would be your herbs. Like I said, some sort of oil to anoint with. I've got moon water that you can anoint with that as well. I've got crystals to work with, and we'll talk about the different ways that you can do that. I've got a candle, that if I was doing a ritual, I would want a candle. And so those are the things that I want. Then you'd want to make sure, like I said, you have your smudging stuff, a lighter, just really anything that you're going to need. Most of that stuff sits right here, so I don't have to gather too much. My shelf, I got a shelf on this side and a shelf on this side, and I can pretty much reach anything that I forgot and not have to get up. So, uh, but if you're doing this, and if say you're going to go outside and do a ritual, maybe it'd be nice to have a little basket or something you could put everything in, and take it with you or something. You don't have to, but you can throw it all in a bag. And you can do ritual very big or very small. And so that's another thing I want to really put out there is, like I said, you don't have to do all these steps. And you don't have to have, I have 4 herbs here. I have 4 stones, but you don't need to. You could have 1 herb and 1 stone, or you could have none, and that's perfectly fine. Um, you could go to your kitchen cupboard and find an herb to work with. You could go outside and just choose a rock that feels right to you to work with if you wanted to. There's lots of things you can substitute, and I don't want to go too much into that today, but there's always something else you can use if you don't have all the bells and whistles and fun toys. So so number 1, gather all of your items that you're going to want to be working with. Make sure they're in the area you're going to be working in, or like they're in a bag or a basket or a box or whatever, if you're going to go do the ritual somewhere else. Say you're going to go outside and do it around a bonfire, or something like that. You would want everything in ready to go, so when you went outside you had everything. So just gathering all your tools, that's very important, so you don't have to feel like you're running back and forth. Because to me, whether you do just a few of these steps or all of these steps, when you're actually performing the ritual, it's not necessary. It's not like it's super important, but in my opinion, it's just really nice to be able to focus on that and focus your intention, and not be like, oh shit, I forgot something, and get up and have to go get it and then come back. It's just nice to be able to just keep your focus and keep your attention, and not get distracted, so to speak. All right. So the next one I have on the list is prepare yourself. So some of the ways you can do that is, and we're going to call it centering yourself. There's lots of ways you can center yourself, but I'll go over a couple of them. You can just do a nice meditation, a little meditation. You could do a long meditation. Again, it doesn't really matter. A nice way is a salt bath. There's a lot of people that will do, they call them ceremonial baths. So their bath might have lots of candles, might have flower petals, might have oils, might have salt, all of those different things. And that's their, also they're cleansing, but they're centering themselves as well. So they're preparing to do a ceremony. Another thing that I like to do is walk outside barefoot if you can. If it's December in New Hampshire, you're probably not going to want to do that. But, like right now for the full moon tonight, I can certainly go outside and walk around the yard a little bit barefoot. And I usually like to just make it a little, like, I'll go check on my flowers. I'll go check on, different things in the yard and just do a little walk around. It doesn't have to take long. Doesn't have to be a big meaning. Doesn't have to be a big hike or anything like that. I'll just walk around and just look at the different flowers that are coming up in the yard and see how they're progressing. And, that's, a nice way for me to just kind of come back after work and center and focus on being inside my body, my own body. Other ways you can center yourself is with crystals. So one of the things, I think we've talked about it a couple of times before, but I can't always remember everything we go over, is you could take selenite and just go over, like almost like if it was a bar of soap, you could go over, and around and just clear your energies all off. Especially, if you're coming home from a day of work or grocery shopping or whatever, and you want to do a ritual, might be a nice thing to just kind of take the selenite and go. So you could almost, like I said, just use it like soap and just, you'd want to just and clear your energies. And you do your whole body, do your arms, your legs. I know it's kind of hard to do your back, but you could kind of, get it back there and clear out your energies that way. So that's a good thing to do anyway. Just if you're coming home from a really hectic, crazy day, that's kind of a nice thing to do. I have a bar, it's over on my healing tray over there, but it's about that long. And literally I can just put it over my head and I can kind of go down, step over it, and then bring it back up around the back of me. And I've pretty much covered most of myself in a very quick, short time. So for me, a lot of times, my eyes are watering, allergies. For me, a lot of times, quick and easy is the way I like to do things. So, we have busy lives, and sometimes finding a few minutes for ourselves is hard. So if you're going to do a full ceremony ritual, those are some of the things that I would suggest. Like I said, meditate, some sort of salt bath. If you don't have a bathtub, what I do is I make like salt scrubs. I put salt and coconut oil and essential oils and things in it. And you can, in the shower, just kind of scrub them on. And if, like I said, if you're coming home from work and a busy day and you got to get to supper and a ritual and you're like, I don't really have time to take a bath or a shower, you can take that salt scrub and just really rub it all over your hands and use it that way. So again, like I said, you can, improvise. And if you really have to, just go to your kitchen sink and take some salt out of your salt shaker and rub them on your hands. You can always find some other ways to do these things. You don't have to have a fancy, expensive body scrub or anything like that. Depending on what intention, what purpose of my bath scrubs, body scrubs, they range from like $8 to like $13. I don't, and again, I don't make these to make a lot of money. I just basically recoup my cost back on things. So, and I like doing it. It's fun for me. So if you ever want something, just private message me or comment and let me know what you're looking for. I have a lot of them that are pre-done up, but I've had a couple of people reach out to me lately and they're like, I really want something for this, but I'm not sure I want that in this perfume or that perfume or blend. And so I'll mix it up and change it for them. And I don't mind doing that at all. But anyway, back to centering ourselves is where we are. Another good thing you can do is to center yourself is once you've sat down and or wherever you're going to go do your ritual, whether it's going to be sitting on the ground or sitting on a chair or standing, whatever you're going to do, right before you kind of start, one of the good things is to just stop for a second, just kind of, like I said, I just kind of envision my energy coming back to me and just pulling it all back into me. And say your name 3 times. Now you can say it out loud or not. I think when we speak things out loud, it's a little bit more effective for us than to say it in our mind. But again, there's no right or wrong way. That's my opinion. So you would just kind of center yourself, roll your shoulders back, call your energies back into yourself, and just say your name 3 times. And that's a really good way to just kind of block everything out and stuff. So again, when you're gonna, this is the bath and the meditation and all of that is before. So like if you're gonna do your ritual at 7 o'clock, maybe at 6 o'clock you take your bath or go for a little walk outside. So when you come back in at 7 to do your ritual, that's done before. It's just like gathering all your items, your tools, everything was done before. So I would gather my tools first, have everything set. Then for me, I would go for my little walk outside. Feels like I have to see, sorry. Sorry about that. So I'd gather all my tools. In my own situation, I would gather all my tools and then I would go for a little walk outside so that when I came back in to do my ritual, that stuff is done. So now I've sat down to do my ritual. So like I said, I'm going to call myself back in, my energy's back in, and I'm going to say my name 3 times out loud. And this is the step where you're kind of going to leave anything, which is hard for me. This is the hard part for me. I forgot to get milk. I have to call such and such. I forgot to reply to that email. All that stuff gets left somewhere else. You're going to, like, my teacher says, put it all in a little bag, and we're going to put the bag down. And then after ceremony's all done, you can pick that bag back up. So that's a good way to think about it. But I do have a hard time with that. I'll be in the middle of meditating, in the middle of doing a ritual, and all of a sudden I'll be like, shit, I forgot to do that. And so sometimes those things sneak in on us. And, if it does, it's not like the ritual's ruined. It doesn't mean it's not going to work, anything like that. It's just better if we can to try our best to kind of limit those thoughts so that we can just focus on what we're doing. All right, so we are going to say our name 3 times. We're going to leave grocery lists and to-do lists and husbands and kids and parents or whatever. We're going to leave all of that over on the side. We'll worry about it later. So that's done. And then the next step is to smudge, which we can just do that again. Sorry, allergy season here. So one of the things that I think is pretty important is smudging. I do it quite a bit. And I prefer the white sage, but there are lots and lots of other herbs that you can smudge with. So if I was going to do a ritual, one of the things I might do is, I have some herbs here and some stuff, is I might want to just kind of take the smoke and go over the tools that I'm going to use. I have a smudge fan, but it's over there, and it's one of the things I can't reach. But you could just take your and use your hand. Or the other thing you can do is you could hold your tools over the smoke if you wanted to, and do that. So I could take like my anointing blend and hold it. Sorry, you can't see. I could take it and blend over the smoke. And then again, you'd want to smudge yourself. And if you don't want to smudge your whole self, because you know that can take a long time. I like to smudge my hands. Really get in there and get the smoke through my fingers and my hands, because I think that's where we pick up a lot of our different energies, is touching things. We touch people, we touch a lot of objects, we touch objects that other people have touched, and so forth. So I really think if you're not going to do like a full body smudging, the biggest thing is really to do your hands. And I do my hands quite often, not every single day, but every couple of days anyway. And then I like to just kind of, I inhaled, yes. I like to inhale a little bit. And you could do the same with the Palo Santos. You could do the same with the cedar, whatever different herbs you want to smudge with. But I really think as far as clearing out energies and things like that, white sage is the best. But again, that's my preference. There's lots of other ones out there. You know, I do work with some cedar, just because I feel a connection to the tree people, and so I like to work with the cedar for kind of an ancestral connection there. But all right, so just checking my notes. Smudge yourself, smudge your space, smudge your tools. Are all great things to do. Next, again, if you don't want to, you don't have to. If you don't have any smudge, any thing to smudge with, that's perfectly fine. Again, run to your kitchen cabinet and grab a bay leaf, and you could light the bay leaf and just kind of do that. Bay leaves are for banishing negative energy, so it's not as the same as white sage, but if you don't have it and you'd like to do a smudge, you can just always use a bay leaf. There's lots of stuff in your cupboard you could use. Cinnamon is for protection. All the things that are in your kitchen cupboard all have purposes too. And I won't go over like all those different things, because you can just Google that if you want to know the different things that are in your kitchen cupboard, what they are good for. So if you wanted to do a full smudge on your house, or if you're in a room and you want to smudge the room, my suggestion is I usually tell people to start at an open window or at an open door, and start to the east if you can. If you only have one window or one door in the room, then you're going to start there. But I would then suggest moving in a clockwise suggestion. So you're going to go east, south, west, north, back to the window or the door. And you want to smudge under furniture, the corners of the room. I like to get really well. Just kind of those places. If it's a place where dust collects, it's probably a place where energy is going to collect as well. So the little corners in the room, or up in the ceiling corners, under the furniture, things like that. So I just basically think of it, if it's a place where I know I have to clean and dust because it collects dust, it's also a place where I'm going to want to smudge. So that's just kind of the way I look at it. But again, I recommend you start at an open window or an open door, preferably to the east if you can. If not, no big deal. And move clockwise and end back at the door or window, and then you're going to close the door or the window. So then your area would be fully cleansed. All right. So I know it's a lot of prep work to get to the ceremony. So I do think there's a lot in there, but once you get used to doing it, it really doesn't take that long. You know, like I said, for me, I would gather my tools, go for a little walk. Takes maybe 3-4 minutes to gather my tools. Takes me maybe 5 to 10 minutes for my walk, depending on, you know, what I'm doing outside. Come back, really only takes 2 or 3 minutes to smudge. And so, you know, really in the whole thing of it, it's taken me probably less than, you know, 15, 20 minutes to do. Unless you're doing the whole ceremony bath thing, then I would recommend making sure you have plenty of time to enjoy that bath that took you so long to prepare for. So, you know, again, but if you've got that time, or you've got a really nice bathtub. I don't have a bathtub. I do, but it's like, you know, it's this little rinky dinky thing. You can't take a bath. But anyway, so again, you can make it take as long as you want or as short as you want. For example, going for the walk, I could go for an hour walk through the woods, but I usually just, you know, like I said, I usually just take a 5-10 minute walk around the yard. So you can make this as long as you want or as short as you want. I could literally just go outside and walk across the lawn and walk back and say, there, I've walked, my feet have touched the earth, I'm done. But I like to try to make it a little more relaxing and bringing me down from whatever's gone out through the day. But so now we are on to speaking your intention. So it's important to me, and again, other people will tell you different, and so that's okay. But to me, it's very, very important when you're going to do a ritual to have an intention, to have a purpose for it. You're not going to just sit down and, you know, not have a purpose for it. Excuse me. Part of the purpose is going to be is gathering your supplies and your tools. So for today's video, to gather the items that I had here, I went with prosperity items because May is a prosperity month. So I just thought it was fitting to do to gather up items for prosperity. So some of the things you could be setting intentions for. You know, there's a million. I'm not going to go over all of them, but I will just, you know, it could be for desire, it could be for money, love, peace, happiness. Again, you could go on there. It's also kind of a good idea to think of like the why, where, when, and what kind of purpose things. So I'm just going to go with the prosperity because that's the items that I have gathered here. So if I was calling in prosperity, again, prosperity doesn't have to be just money. It can be, so if you're prosperous, have abundance of something, it could be abundance of happiness. It could be an abundance of money. It could be an abundance of friends. You know, I could be calling in abundance of members for my page. There's lots of different things that you can call in prosperity and abundance for, but for this purpose, we'll just say it's going to be money. I don't typically do money. I feel like I have enough to be comfortable. Of course, we always all want more money. We want to buy more things. I'm a shopaholic, and so, but I know if I just had more money, I'd just buy more stuff. But I kind of believe that things come to me as I need them. So, but you could call in an abundance of money if you wanted, which is what I did when I was gathering the supplies for today. So, But you could say why. Why am I calling in abundance? And you could say, well, I need a new car, or I'm trying to buy a house, or my kid's going to college. So kind of why are you calling in this money besides just the fact that I want a bunch of money? Um, and what are you calling in? And some people will actually write down a number. This is my number. This is the number I want. For me, I usually, when I'm setting an intention for things, I say for my highest good. Send me what I need for my highest good. So I'm not putting an actual dollar amount on it. I'm not saying, well, I need $5,000 or I need $50,000 or I need $5 million. But some people do. Some people will write down a number. And again, that's perfectly fine. But I usually just say, I'm calling in what I need for my highest good. Where is a little tricky when you're calling in money. But if you were calling in, say, love or friendship or something like that, there might be a where. And then when, and again, I usually say, for my highest good, when I am ready, but some people will again put a date. They want $5,000 by June 1st, and that's okay. I don't necessarily think that's very realistic, but if that's what you feel comfortable, that's what you feel called to do, then go ahead. I will just call in what I need, when I need it, and where I need it for my highest good. And I kind of let the universe decide there. So again, you can speak it out loud. You can write it or thought. I like to work with written. So again, it depends on how you are doing things, what you're doing. It depends on if you are releasing or calling in. So for a full moon is when you normally release things. And if you were calling something in, that would normally be the new moon. Today is a full moon. So normally to do a full moon ritual, you would be releasing something. But for this purpose today, we're just working on calling in abundance. But that would typically be done at the new moon, which is like the 23rd, 24th, something of the month. But today is the new moon, and so during the full moon, and during the full moon, typically that is when you do releasing work. So again, that's things, if you know that in advance, it's very helpful. So again, for preparing for what you want for tools, even kind of thinking, longer term of, okay, this is something I want to release, and I'll do that on the full moon, or this is something I want to call in, so I'm going to do that ritual on the new moon, but you can do any of these rituals anytime. You don't need it to be a full moon or a new moon to do it. They just say that typically the full moon is when the moon is at its fullest, and that's when you're going to release anything. And when your moon is a new moon, it's completely dark, and so that's a good time to call things in. But again, you do what feels right for you. I'm just going to go over, like I said, I'm going over kind of the general rules, the general standards of things, and you do what feels right for you, and leave the rest. When I'm releasing something, I like to write it on a bay leaf and burn it. Or you could write it on a piece of paper and burn it. So for releasing things, I like to write them down on something and burn it. Typically, I use a bay leaf, just because I don't like to just get a piece of paper and write something on it and burn it. So I'll use a bay leaf if I'm trying to release something. If I'm trying to call something in, that's a little different, but we'll get into that part. So we are setting our intention, which again, you really should have kind of basically known what your intention was when you were gathering your tools. But this is the time where you're going to really like focus in on what your actual intention is. So you might have known, like this morning, I knew I was going to do it over prosperity. So I got all my prosperity stuff. So this step is the step where like, okay, what am I actually calling in for prosperity? And what is the exact intention that I want to set? So we're going to do that. And then the next step I have is you would light your candle. And so I have these little candles that I love these things because I don't have to spend a lot of money on them, and they don't take up a lot of room. But I'm calling in prosperity. And so the color of prosperity is green. So I have a little green candle here. So I'll light it. I'll go ahead and light it. So my little green candle's lit here. I'll put that right there. Try not to catch anything on fire. So you're going to light your candle. And again, when you're collecting your tools and getting ready, I've gone really fuzzy here. And you've kind of picked your intention, you'll know what color candle that you want. If you don't know what color candle goes for what your intention is, you're pretty safe with just picking a white candle. Very fuzzy. So you're pretty safe picking just a white candle. Is that better? Yeah. So, but typically, you know, if you're calling in peace and harmony, it's blue. If you're calling in love, it's pink. If you're calling in desire, it's red. Prosperity is green. But there's lots of photo albums up on the Facebook page. And one of them is Candle Magic. So if you're not sure what color candle to pick, I don't know why I'm all fuzzy. You can go ahead on there and pick. I don't know. I'm still fuzzy. You can pick what color you want, but again, if you're not really sure what color candle to use, you're safe to just use a white candle. So, and again, I wouldn't be doing all this talking during a ritual. It would be a lot more silent. It'd be a lot more focused. It would be, you know, not all this talking involved. It's more, to me, it's more of a very relaxing, tranquil, almost meditative kind of thing to do, a ceremony. It's very quiet. It's very relaxing. If you're somebody out there that likes to do lots of noise during a ritual, that's perfectly fine too. I prefer it to just be very intimate, quiet, relaxing kind of thing to do ceremony. But again, you know, if you're somebody that wants to do this outside and you want to do a lot of dancing around and music and all those things, go for it. You know, do you. So we're going to light our candle, and then we're going to set up our station. So this would be where you would take the things that you're going to use and kind of set them in the area that you're going to use them. So west would be water. So I have my anointing and my moon water here. So that would go to the west, which would kind of be over here for me. West is kind of that way. them right here. And then usually you'd start in the east, but I'm kind of free. East is that way. So east, I'm trying to think. West is water, south is fire. So south would be over here, but I don't know about, I'm going to put my candle actually way over there because I don't want to put my elbow on it. I didn't think this part out through. East would be my stones. So I'm going to put those over here. And then, no, I didn't say that right. Yeah, well, part of my problem is I wrote east, west, fire, air. So my own notes are very helpful. West is water. South is fire. Drawing a blank here. North is crystals. East is herbs for your air. Anyhow, there's charts out there about that too. And I've done about building an altar, and it would be very similar for that if you want to go back and watch that video as well. So now we've kind of got our stuff in the right spots here, which you don't, again, have to. You could just have them in front of you and not have to have them in any particular place or anything like that. That's perfectly fine. But there's still, and you could actually go all the way around you if you wanted. If you had, I've seen people do a giant circle. They might put salt down. They might have rocks in a circle, different things like that. And they might sit in the center. And so they might have their tools all the way around them. I don't find that very convenient for me. So, I pretty much sit at this table. Where I do these videos is the same exact place that I do. I really am not happy that this is blurry today. I don't know why. This is where I do my ceremonies just as well as where I do all my videos. So, but everything is very easy for me to reach and get to, and I don't have to be like I said, I don't want to be getting up or down or anything. But again, if you're outside and you're doing this ritual and you're doing it around a bonfire, and maybe your tools are all in the directions around the bonfire, I can't say it enough. Make it your own. Do what feels right for you. Think outside the box. Just because I've told you I've set my stuff up in this way does not mean that that's how you have to set your stuff up. You could set your stuff up in each direction of this living room if I wanted to, and make the whole living room the ceremony space. But I don't choose to do that. But you can really think outside the box. All right. So now we have set up our tools where they're supposed to be. And so this is where we're going to open a circle. I will tell you, I don't open a circle when I do ritual. And there'll probably be a lot of people that will find that like, oh my God, she doesn't open a circle. I don't feel called to. I don't feel threatened. I don't feel that there's a lot of negative energy around me. I don't call in any kind of negative energy. I sage here. I incense here. I'm anointed. I've got crystals. And I just don't feel the need to open a circle. But a lot of people do. So we're going to go over it. Typically, you would want to use a wand to open a circle. You can use a selenite wand. You can use a wand that you have made. And if you don't have a wand, you can just use your finger as a wand. So again, but one of the things, like, I'll show you. Like, this is one of my wands, if I can get it there. Yep, this is a wand for me. So if I wanted to, I could open a circle with this. And it's a stick I found in the backyard. So you don't have to go out and get fancy, expensive tools if you don't want to. You can literally walk outside and find a stick. Now, some of these I have just like this. Some of them I have got really fancy, and I've got some pictures up on the page of some of the wands I've made. One of the other ones I use a lot is this one, where I just tied a little bit of ribbon at the bottom, and I glued a little stone on the top. And that's one of the wands I use a lot. This one it doesn't have any bark on it. This one still has the bark on it. But again, I feel very connected to the tree people, so the sticks in the wood really resonate with me. So opening a circle can be super easy or super complex. Again, your choice. You're going to go clockwise. You're going to start, and you're going to go around, and you're going to come back, and then close the circle off. You're not closing the circle as far as at the end of the ritual, you'll close the circle. You're like, I guess the better word is completing. So if you start and you go around behind you, and then you come back, and then you've completed the circle by using both hands. So really, I mean, like I said, you could take your finger and just go around you and complete the circle. Maybe you want to go like that. I don't know. Or some people can just envision a circle. That's fine too. Like I said, some people might have a circle of salt around them. Some people might have a circle of stones around them. Again, really whatever you want to do. But when you're opening a circle, you can be calling in your guardians. So you're going to call in the 4 directions. If you want to, you can also call in, there's another set. You can do a set of 4 or set of 7. So the set of 4 is basically your directions, your elements. And then 7 is your upper realm, your middle realm, and your lower realm. I don't typically work with them, but you can. I work with some of the lower realms during ancestral time, because the lower realm is the bone keepers, the bone people. But typically I do work with just the 4 elements. So again, you can make it as simple as I call in the 4 elements, air, earth, fire, water, and I call in the 4 directions, east, south, west, north, and be done. You could make it a lot more. I marked this page to show you guys. This is in the book of Rituals and Blessings and Rituals, where she's doing the 4 directional invocation. And it is literally this page and this page and this page. And you can see where I've kind of highlighted. And that's basically, I mean, I don't read this, but that's kind of the guidelines that I go. These are kind of the parts that I use. So I don't cast a circle. I don't open a circle, but I do call in the directions, the elements, the guardians to be here with me. But I don't cast a circle. And I know there'll be people that are like, oh my God. It's fine. I don't feel the need to. If you feel the need to, do it. So again, you can make that really simple as far as calling in whoever you want to call in. You don't even need to call in the directions if you don't want to. You can just call in your spirit guides. You can call in ancestors. Again, depending on who you prefer to work with, what your intention is, all of those things, will take, you could take into account of what you want to do with. Like I said, if you're working with ancestral magic and stuff, then you might want to think about the calling in the lower realm, the bone people. So it really just depends on what you're doing. But for a prosperity one, I would simply call in the 4 directions, the guardians of the 4 directions. Then once you've got that done, and again, like I said, you can make it very, very short, or you can make it, a very long thing if you want. If you have this book, I just took the marker out of the page, but when you got to this point, you could sit and read this. It doesn't necessarily have to be in your own words. You could sit down when you're ready to do ritual. You could sit down and have this page marked just like I did, and you could read these out loud or to yourself and use that as calling in your aids. Like I said, I've kind of highlighted the parts that I like to use. All right, so we've centered ourselves, we've said our name, we have gathered our tools, we have smudged, we've lit our candle, we've set up our tools, we've opened a circle, and we've called in our guides at this point. So the next thing that we're going to do is the actual ritual. So believe it or not, all of that was kind of prep work. So the ritual itself, again, this is where it gets really confusing for a lot of people, because to me, there is no right or wrong way to do any of these things. You can meditate during this time. You can dance. You could sing. You could play an instrument. You could listen to music. You can really do pretty much anything you want at this time. You could do a nice little journey if you wanted. That's usually what I do, is some sort of little journey during this time. But what I typically do at this point is, now that I've called in all of my guardians, is I start to work with the tools that I have. So our candle is already lit. I like to do that before I call in the guardians. Again, if you do it after, it's really not like a super big deal, but for whatever reason, I always feel called to do my candle before I do that, call in my guardians. So the next thing I would do at this point would be anoint. So I have got a little manifesting blend that I've made last year or the year before or whatever. And so open the bottle. So what I would do is I would take a little bit and I would put it on each wrist, and then a little bit on each ankle, and then just a little bit at my third eye. I have really oily skin, so I try not to put too much oil on my skin, on my face anyway. So that's what you consider anointing. So a little bit at each wrist, a little bit at each ankle. I do the inside of your ankle. If you want, you could do the bottom of your feet as well, and then a little bit at your third eye. So, and again, I have already blended this, but you could make that part of your ritual. You could have put all of your oils out and made this during that time, and then anointed with it. So that would make your ceremony, a little bit longer if that's what you want to do. If I didn't have this one already made, that's what I would have done. I would have had all my essential oils out here, and after I've called in my guardians, I would have made it and then anointed with it. But I already had one made. If you don't, if you don't have essential oils, you can use moon water. And moon water is, and I'm pretty sure I have a video on that as well, but basically I have a jar and it has water in it, and I put it out at the full moon. And then I use it. And again, you would anoint with this the same way. So just open it up, dip your finger in, a little bit at each wrist, a little bit at each ankle, and a little bit at your third eye. So you can anoint with your moon water. You could, again, you can do pretty much anything with this. You could put herbs in it. You could put oils in it. You could put crystals in it to make your moon water. I'm, again, more of the simplistic thing. I like just the moon water. It's telling me it's time to go, and we're not done. So after you've anointed, the next thing that I would do is I would do my incense, my charcoal. So I would light my charcoal, and I will take, I picked out my, see, I have my little jar that says prosperity with my 5 on it. And these are the herbs that I have in there. So I would go ahead and get my charcoal going at this time, and go ahead and put a little bit of each one of these on my charcoal. So my incense was going. So now my candle's lit, I've anointed, and my incense is going. So the last thing that I would work with would be my crystals. Now, again, there are different ways you can work with these. If you're going to do a meditation or a journey, you could simply just hold them during that. I picked green stones again for prosperity. So you could, if you're going to meditate, journey, anything like that, you can hold them. If you're not going to do something like that, if you don't want to, my suggestion would be to get a quartz point, which I have one around here somewhere, a generator, I don't know, and just set up a little grid. And so I would just, I have 4 stones, so I would put one in each direction, northwest, east, south, and put the generator in the middle, and then activate your grid. And by activating your grid, you're going to just take a, no, now I'm rushing. You're going to take a quartz point, and you would go from the generator to the stone, back to the generator, to the next stone, back to the generator. And I'm pretty sure I've got a video out there about gridding as well. So if you want to learn more about that, that video is out there as well. So you could either meditate and hold the stones, or you could make a grid and activate it at this time. So that's all done. This is the step where if I was releasing something, I would write it on a bay leaf and put it in my candle and burn it, or you could drop it on the charcoal and burn it. I usually light it from the flame and then drop it on the charcoal to finish, because you can't really hold it while it's burning. So that's if you're going to release. If you're calling in, what I have is I have a jar. It's just a mason jar that I got at the dollar store, and I decorated it. It's, it's all decorated up, and I should have grabbed it, but I didn't. I forgot. So you can decorate it however you want, or you could just leave it at the mason jar. And what I do on that is I write my intention. Again, you can use paper, you can use a bay leaf, whatever you want. I like the bay leaves just because I think it's a lot more natural than paper. And I put all of my new intentions in the jar. So it's a good sized jar. I write my intention on it that I'm calling in, and I put it in the jar, and then I seal up the jar. I don't seal it like with the wax like we do if we're making a honey jar or something like that, but I close the cover on it. And so every new moon, when I am calling something in, setting intention, I will add to that jar. So all my intentions are all in there on little bay leaves. So again, you can add in music, you can add in dancing, you can add in, if you've got a drum, I've got a little Sage Goddess drum here. You could drum, you can, a lot of my stuff is over on the other side, but you could ring bells, you could use a rattle, anything that you really want to do to just kind of sit in the ritual and sit there. And the whole purpose of it is while you're sitting here, you are calling in that. So you're not playing the rattle and thinking about, again, I've got to get milk and things like that. The purpose is to sit there and sit with the intention and be calling it in. And if it helps to speak it out loud, sometimes that helps for me because then it helps me not get quite so distracted. If I'm saying it in my mind, sometimes that's when like, oh, you forgot to get milk and you forgot to call such and such and all those other things come in. Where if you're saying it out loud, I don't tend to get quite so squirrel brain. You could work with a goddess at this, or god at this time if you wanted to. You could just have a picture of that god or goddess out. You could journey with them at this point. So once you've used your tools, pretty much this part of the journey, this part of the ritual is really up to you. Again, you could just end it with that. I could light my candle, I could anoint, I could get my incense going, I could set up my grid, and pretty much end the ritual right there if I wanted to. Or again, like I said, you can do all kinds of other things. Meditate, journey, dance, play an instrument, all kinds of things that you could do. And so once that part is done, and again, you can make it as short as you want, because I could light my candle, do my incense, anoint, do my incense, and set up my grid and be done in just a few minutes if I wanted to. I try not to rush through them, but again, I don't like them to take a super long time. Like I'm not in it to do an hour-long bath and an hour-long ceremony, and I'm like, I got a half hour. But you can really do all this in a half an hour if you really want to. So depending on what it is that you want to do in your ceremony, like I said, we've got our candle lit, we've anointed, we've got our incense going, we've got our grid set up, or we've meditated with our crystals, and we have written our intention down, or you can speak it out loud if that's what you prefer to do. I like to have them on the bay leaves because it's kind of neat for me to go back and every once in a while open the jar and see the intentions that I wrote down, see how they're similar, see how they're different. But again, that's my way of doing it, but you don't need to do it that way. But I find it very interesting to do that. So I've written my intention on my bay leaf. I've put it in my jar, and this is where I'm going to be, okay, I have completed my ritual and now I'm done. So this is the part where you would thank all your guardians for being there. Thank them for helping you on your journey. And again, it could just be that I release the guardians and I thank you for helping me on this journey. Or you could release each one by going, east, south, west, north, and releasing them. You could do a very long, speech invocation, or you could, again, just make it very simple. You can even just say it in your head. I release the guardians. I release and thank the guardians. My guardians, guardians of the elements, whatever, ancestors, whatever it was that you called in. So again, you can make it really short, or you can make it a very drawn out thing if you want to. This is where you are then going to close the circle. So where we went, I have to think because I don't do this part. So we started east and went around. This time we're going to start east, and we're going to go the other way to close it and then come back. So you're going to go counterclockwise instead of clockwise to close the circle. And then once that part is done, most people are like, okay, I'm done. I closed my circle. I'm all set. There's two things that I think are really important, whether you open a circle or not, whether you journey, meditate, dance, whether you just use your tools and are done, whatever it looks like for you. I think the last two steps are super important. Parts that people don't typically know. And because I hear a lot of people saying, like, I did ritual last night and I'm so tired. I'm so drained. I have no energy today. I don't want to do anything, and then they're like, well, I don't want to do rituals if that's how I'm going to feel the next day. And you have to ground after your rituals. It's super, super important. So one of the things that I didn't mention before, and I apologize, is if you're going to be doing some sort of meditation or journey work during your ritual, I recommend that you don't eat for a couple of hours before. Because the food is the grounding part. So food keeps you grounded. So if you're going to do, like I said, a meditation or a journey or anything like that, I don't recommend eating anything before you do that. So now that you've closed your circle, bread, crackers, anything like that is going to help ground you, help to bring you back from the ritual energy. The other thing is, I really, really, really think it's super important, which I am not good about this part either. Right here, after a ritual, lots of water. You even though you don't feel it at the time during a ritual, you use up a lot of energy. You use up a lot of I don't know what the word is I'm thinking of, but you need to replenish. And that is water for our body. Our body is mostly water. So when you have closed your circle, now close your circle. For me, if I'm sitting here, I've closed my circle. I'm going to blow out my candle. And then I'm going to get up. I'm going to walk around a little bit. Usually I have to go pee. And so I'm going to walk around a little bit, and then I'm going to get myself a little snack and a glass of water. So again, piece of bread, some crackers. It doesn't have to be, but a lot of people find it's better to do something like that. I won't lie, I typically go for ice cream. But to eat something after your ritual and to drink at least one, if not 2 glasses of water after, even if you're someone who, like, usually that's good for me. If I have a snack and I drink my water, I'm usually okay the next day. If you've done that and you're still feeling a little tired and whatnot after, there are crystals maybe you want to use after ceremony. Maybe you want to use some grounding stones after. I have on my hematite right here. But maybe you need a little extra grounding with some stones or, maybe even some stones that are going to help you call your energy back, kind of stuff. So that is ceremony in a nutshell. And I didn't really tell you any specific, this is what you have to do. The only two things that I really feel strong about is after any kind of ceremony work, ritual work, anything like that, that you really eat and drink after. You go to the to get a massage, and that's what they'll tell you. Sorry. If you go for acupuncture, that's what they're going to tell you. You need to eat a little snack and you need to drink some water. Anything like that, because you're doing energy work and you need to replenish and get yourself back in your body. So I think that's it. I'm going to be late for work as usual. I will see you guys all on Monday for our weekly forecast. And I hope everybody has a really great weekend. And remember to be kind. It's not only going to change your day, it's going to change somebody else's day and potentially could change somebody else's life for the better. So, and it's free. So you know what? Spread all the kindness you can. Lots of love. Thanks for watching. You guys are great. Bye.